What is going on? This is AlTone and welcome to another absolutely fantastic day and another video. And today I'm actually going to be doing or actually correcting something from my last video and sharing you or showing you how Expo actually works on your controller. As you make those Expo adjustments, I'm going to show you how that works. Now, TC actually, and I can't get the whole name in, but actually made a comment on last week's video, and in that comment actually corrected me and said that I will actually set my Expo to a positive number, and I should have set it to a negative number to decrease the sensitivity on my aircraft. And believe it or not, I was actually flying it that way. It did seem to help with the controllability of the aircraft. Now that, again, it may have been in my head, so I was actually doing a better job of controlling the aircraft or something, I don't know. But we're going to make some changes to that on that aircraft. And today I wanted to actually take this opportunity to share with you how Expo actually works on your radio. So if you're a beginner and you notice that an aircraft that you're flying may be a little bit sensitive to your controls, and you just want to soften those controls down just a little bit so you can actually fly just a little bit smoother and make those gradual corrections, changing your Expo is actually going to help you do that. So let's go ahead and jump to the drop down and let me show you how that works out. Alrighty, so first of all, I just want to share with you or tell you basically what this is. What you have here is a servo. This particular one is a plastic geared servo that I use in some of my lighter aircraft, and I actually used it in this test model that I use for setting up for testing purposes as well. What that servo does is it actually moves your control surfaces. So if you look over here, we have our ailerons and we have our flaps on this model. The servo actually moves the servo push rod that is connected to the servo horn on each one of the control surfaces, and it moves it up or down or left or right or whatever it is based on your control input on your sticks. Same thing for the rudder, elevator, and flaps. On RC cars and things of that nature, you may actually see servos used for different purposes, but you can use them in so many different ways. So you can always grab yourself a bunch of servos, connect them to your PWM connections. Pulse width modulation is what that stands for, and that's what feeds the information to your servo as far as positioning. It gives power to the servo, and it feeds that information from your receiver to the servo. So I have this guy connected right now to my test model, and it's actually connected to this stick on my controller. So let's go ahead, we're going to turn on. You notice that the servo moved a little bit, and so now we have it connected, and you'll be able to see that our servo is actually moving left to right based on the position of my right control stick, and that actually controls my ailerons. And so what we're going to do is we're going to go into here, jump into our advanced settings, and then we're going to go down to rate curve on the T12D. Now, depending on what radio you're using, you may find your Expo settings in a different place. So we go to rate curve. Here you see the channel, Expo, EXP, which is what you're adjusting. Your rate is 100, and your Expo, currently I have it set to negative 100. So we're going to move that. When you first set up your aircraft, it's going to be set to 0. So when you do so, you'll notice that very little movement on my control stick causes the servo to move left or right. Very little movement. And if you look right here on the screen, what you'll notice is, see that line moving? It's showing you where it's actually positioning, or what information is sending out to the servo as far as its position. And you notice that diagonal line is completely straight. So now what we're going to do is we're going to change it. Now we're going to change it first to a positive number. So let's go all the way to positive 100. And as we change this, what you're going to notice is that line starts to curve, and it bows up and bows down. And what that does, if we move our control stick, it actually changes how quickly the servo will respond to the movement. So if you look at the servo now, very little movement will cause it to move. Now it's not quite in line with that center line at this point, but very little movement will cause it to move. Now with that movement, the way it is, it's going to cause your control surface to move faster. And that control surface, in this case, are ailerons. When they move faster, the air going across that wing is actually going to cause that wing to either rise or fall that much faster. And so you want to be aware of that. And so let's go ahead and change this guy down to -100. So we're just scrolling all the way down to -100, and you'll notice that the curve actually goes in the opposite direction. And we're -100. So looking at that curve, what you'll notice is right in the dead center of that curve, it's kind of, it tries to flatten out just a little bit, and then it aggressively goes all the way to the top, which means that your movement is going to be very little and gradually become greater of an impact based on the position of your control stick. So now if you watch this, it doesn't move as much for that small amount of movement. It will go all the way to one endpoint or the other, but it moves a little bit less, which means that the correction, so if you're flying and you need to make a left or right turn and you don't want it to make a sharp turn, you can actually just move the control stick just a little bit. It's going to make a very small adjustment to your control surface, which allows the aircraft to only move a slight bit to head in the direction you want it to. If it slams like this, then the aircraft's actually going to jerk hard to that direction, and it could cause you to crash your aircraft. And that's the reason why we use Expo. Well, part of the reason why we use Expo. There are many reasons why you can add Expo to a specific servo in your controls, but that's one of the main reasons why we do so on fixed wing aircraft. Is it keeps the aircraft from being too jerky. It's not going to respond quite as quickly, which would possibly put you in an unrecoverable spiral or crash. However, you can still, if you need to, get that full quick movement to the direction that you want it to go into, so that you can avoid obstacles and all that kind of stuff. So I truly hope that this has helped you out in some way. I really appreciate TC for asking the question, or actually making the correction and giving me the opportunity to share this information with you. So hopefully today you learned how Expo actually works, how to set the Expo on your T12D or any other radio for that matter, and you have a visual idea of what those changes actually do to your aircraft as you're flying it. And that way, when you go in to program your radio, hopefully that means that you'll have a better understanding of different things that you can do, at least when it comes to Expo, and how that could possibly change the way your aircraft responds when you're flying. So thanks again for coming by. I really appreciate you. Have an absolutely fantastic day, and I look forward to seeing you again in a future video. Take care.